All right, so for this one, I'm just going to add f of x plus g of x. The problem with that is that f of x, well, let me write it down first. So to do f of x plus g of x, f of x is x minus 16 all over x squared plus 6x minus 40. And then, oops, yeah, no, that's right. Then, g of x, so I'm just going to add g of x. G of x is just 1 over x plus 10. The problem is when you add fractions, we need a common denominator. All right, so let's think about this. If I say 6 plus 1 over 6 plus 1 over 8. We need to find the common denominator. In other words, what number does 6 and 8 go into evenly? Now, the answer is 24, but there's a more, well, you guys would say complicated, but I would say more formal way to find that answer. But basically what you do is you do prime factorization. And the prime factorization is the first step in the process. Okay? Because what we want to do is find the lowest common multiple. So remember that 6, prime factorization means that we're going to break that denominator into prime factors, right? So 2, 3, 5, 7, nothing but prime numbers, okay? So 6 is the product of, let me do that over here. 6 is the product of 2 times 3. So I would write this down as 1 over 2 times 3. 8 is the product of 4 times 2, and 4 is the product of 2 times 2 times 2. So 1 over 8 now becomes 2 times 2 times 2. Okay? So then what you do to find the lowest common multiple, you're going to have to, what's the easiest way to word this? To find the lowest common multiple, they all have to share something, right? And they have to have, so let me, you have to break it down to the lowest power. In other words, they both share a 2, right? So they both share a 2. But this has a 3, and this has a 2 squared, right? So what are they sharing? Well, they're sharing a 2, but this one is missing a 3, and this one is missing a 2 times 2, which is really a 4. Does that make sense? Or an easier way to look at it is technically this has this has 2 times 3, and this has 1 over 2 to the third power, right? So what I'm going to need to do is this has to be 2 to the third power, and this is missing a 3. Well, to make this 2 to the third power, so they have everything in common. I had to multiply this by 2 squared, and whatever I do on the bottom, I also have to do on the top. And over here, I had to multiply this by a 3. And whatever I do on the bottom, I had to do on the top. Now, when I'm done with this, I'm going to get 4 over 24 plus I'm going to get 3 over 24, which consequently is what you'll get over here, because you would multiply by 2 squared, which is 4. In other words, when you're in elementary school, we teach you, go ahead and multiply it by the number that makes it 24. And then over here, you would multiply this by the number that makes it 24. And you get the same thing. Now, why did I get real formal on that process? And it's not the lowest common multiple, it's the greatest common denominator. I apologize, I shouldn't have wrote that down that way, the greatest common denominator, because it's the lowest common multiple is a different thing. So this is the greatest common denominator, okay? So now we got to do that with an algebraic expression. So the first step in that process is the factorization. So for this one, I'm going to say x minus 16, nothing I can do there. But this 40 is probably going to have the x minus 10 in it. So I'm going to think, what does that look like? If I say x plus 10 times, in other words, I'm going to factor this denominator, probably x minus 4. And then the middle term will be negative 4 times x, which is minus 4x, and then 10 times x. So yeah, this is the factor of that, okay? Plus 1 over x plus 10. Well, let me do it this way. Plus 1 over x plus 10. Now, what you notice is I have this over here and I have this over here, but what's missing is my x minus 4. And whatever I do to the bottom, I've got to do to the top. In other words, I'm multiplying this fraction by x minus 4 over x minus 4. Okay? So now I got to push that through. So over here on the numerator, on this side, I've got x minus 16 all over x plus 10 times x minus 4 plus, if I distribute the 1 through that, I'm just going to end up with x minus 4 all over x plus 10 times x minus 4. Now, here's the interesting thing here. When I go to solve this, I'm just going to really technically, we say this, 3 plus 4 all over 24, which gives me my 7 over 24. We're going to apply that same process over here. I'm going to take x minus 16 plus x, x minus 4, that's the whole numerator, all over x plus 10 in parentheses times x minus 4. Then I'm going to combine like terms. So this becomes 2x, right, because I have one x here and another x here, minus negative 16 and negative 20, or negative 4, which becomes negative 20, all over x plus 10 times x minus 4. But as I'm looking at this, I notice that I could factor out a 2. But technically what I'm going to do is I'm going to factor out a negative 2. Well, actually, I'll just leave it like that. I could factor out some stuff, but I'll just leave it like this. So then my final answer then is I'm going to multiply this back out, and I get 2x minus 20 all over x squared plus 6x minus 40. And that's what we started off with. So this is the final answer. All that work to get the final answer. But you can see how they're connected. The rules are the same with the numbers as they are with the algebraic expressions.